these are the new best guns and the best class setups in the Season 4 update. The first gun I want to go over is the brand new ISO 45 SMG, which this thing hits very hard. Not that much recoil. Okay, there's a lot of recoil, but the fire rate is very quick, so it basically just deletes every enemy. But since there is a lot of recoil, you kind of have to run the Edge 47, which is going to be the best underbarrel for recoil control. The only downside is that it hurts the mobility a lot, so if you are using this and you're like, damn, I'm so good at the game, then I would add the Commando foregrip. That's going to give you a little bit less recoil control, but it's not going to hurt the mobility as much. With that said, we still need a little bit more recoil control, so that's why I'm running the Spiral Flash Hider. This is going to be the best muzzle for a lot of recoil control without really hurting the mobility. But since these two attachments are bringing down the mobility a lot, we are going to be running the EXP Shear, which is going to bring that mobility back up, which usually I would tune the weapon, but since I don't have it maxed out, I actually can't tune the weapon. And so if you do want to tune it for the recoil control attachments, tune those for more recoil control, and then tune these mobility attachments for a little bit more mobility. And then for the optic, I usually increase the flinch resistance and make it a little bit farther away from me. And then for the stock, I really wanted to use the cheetah stock because it's really increases the mobility, makes the weapon feel so light, but it just hurts the recoil control so much. And so that's why I'm going to be running the demo, which is just going to kind of fine tune the weapon without really hurting it. And so now we have a lot of recoil control, we got a lot of movement mobility, and then the iron sights are a little bit wonky, so I'm running the Cronin Mini Dot, although sometimes I will run something else, which I'll give you guys the variation. But if you look at these iron sights, they're not that bad, but there's just like there's so much going on, and so it might be a little bit easier to run an optic. That being said, if you don't want to run an optic, I would not run a barrel. I don't really like any of the barrels on this gun. If you want to run a laser, run the VLK and then tune that for more mobility. If you want to have a magazine, I would add the 45 round drum. This 12 round mag is really bad, like it really doesn't do much for the weapon. I don't like it at all. And then if you want to run an ammo, I would run the overpressured and tune that for more recoil steadiness and more damage range. With all that said, here's an overview of the class, and if you are curious of like my perks and equipment and stuff, I am basically running the same tactical lethal perks and field upgrades for every single one of these classes. This next weapon is going to be the RAZORBACK. They just added this. This is a brand new AR, and this thing is actually so busted. Right there, I was having a hard time controlling the recoil, but when I practice and stuff, you can easily beam those back targets, and then there's so much mobility, you have a lot of ammo. Like, this might be my favorite gun in the game. Yo, do you want these beautiful mastery camos or that heated madness, maybe the galvanic, or if you want your account ranked up to iridescent? Well, you should definitely check out Gwapsi. Gwapsi is a company that will play the game for you, and they'll get any camo or any skin that you want. Go check them out, link in the description. And so for the build, it's going to be pretty similar to that ISO 45 build. We are running the Sock and Tread 40 because it gives you a lot of vertical and a little bit of horizontal, which this gun has a lot of vertical recoil. And so now the weapon's going to be a little bit easier to use, although I still like to run the Commando. This is going to add a lot more recoil control. If you do want a quicker ADS speed, then I would add the Shark Fin 90 or the Phase 3 grip, but for me, I am going to be running the Commando foregrip. I am running the 45 round mag just so I can play very aggressive, and I don't really need to worry about reloading as much. And so if you don't want to run a magazine, then obviously I'd run an optic. The optics I recommend is the Cronin Mini Pro, Cronin Mini Dot, or the Slimline Pro. I tried out the barrels. Overall, I don't really like the barrels. This barrel, no, the tanker barrel is pretty cool. No, sorry, the 17-inch barrel is pretty cool because it builds in a sight under your weapon, but it just makes the weapon feel so tanky, and I just don't like that feel. If you want to run a laser, run the OLE laser with the same tuning that we tuned it on the previous class. If you want to run some ammo, I would run the overpressured rounds with the same tuning. For me though, usually I'll run the 45 round mag, and then for the rear grip, we are running the KASTOV. This is going to increase that mobility, making the weapon feel a lot lighter. I was going to add the FLT, but I don't like how we're losing flinch resistance, and so I recommend staying away from that one. And now the weapon still feels a little bit heavy, and so I was going between the comb and the stock, and I found that the strafe speed is so bad, so that's why we are going to be running the preamble, which is going to increase the sprint speed and the aim walking speed. And again, if you do want to tune them, tune these for recoil control and these for mobility, which that is going to wrap it up for the RAZORBACK. And just to show you guys real quick before the next class, this is going to be the F-TAC, but now as you guys can see, we have it in akimbo, and this thing is super fun to use. I really recommend you guys to try this thing out in akimbo. Overall, there's a lot of recoil on it, and this is like a recoil control build, so it is a little bit hard to use, but it's very fun. And so for the class, because the ADS speed doesn't matter at all, you you only need to focus on your movement speed, your like sprint to fire speed, and then your hip fire accuracy. And so that's why we are running the pistol laser, which is going to tighten up the hip fire spread and increase that sprint to fire speed. And then for the barrel, we are running the CMRN50 barrel, which this is going to add a lot of recoil control. Yes, we are losing movement speed, which is annoying, but I found it doesn't take that much away, and this really helps out the weapon. I tried other attachments and there's just so much recoil with the akimbo. And then we are running the vanguard MKV because this is going to be the tankiest suppressor, the heaviest one, but since we're not losing movement speed and we're only losing ADS speed, this is perfect to use this on the akimbo build. And then if you want to run it in akimbo, you just go over to the rear grip and add the akimbo. We are running the 50 round drum. If I'm on shipping, I'll probably run the 72, but outside of shipping, you don't really need 72 rounds, which that is going to wrap it up for the FTAC Siege. This next weapon we are going to be going over, this is the MP5, and I really recommend you guys to use the MP5. One of the fastest killing guns in the game. I just made this build the other day. This one has a suppressor, and usually I don't run a suppressor on my guns, but on this gun it just feels so nice. And so the suppressor I chose was the Huntress one. This is going to be the best suppressor if you do want to run a suppressor. This is going to increase that damage range and, you know, that sound suppression. We are losing a little bit of our mobility, which is why we are going to be tuning it for a little bit more mobility and then just bring up the aim and idle stability. And for the barrel, because this muzzle is so heavy, we are going to be running the Falcon barrel, which this is going to bring up that movement speed and the ADS speed. So now we can run around the map a little bit more freely and then add a lot of stability because there's a lot of sway on the weapon. I am going to be adding the Shark Fin 90. If you do want recoil control, then I would add the Phase 3 grip, although I don't think you really need it. For me, I'm going to be running the 40 round mag just so I don't have to worry about reloading as much. And so like I said in those other two builds, if you don't want to run a magazine, run a laser optic ammunition. If you want, you can run a rear grip. The one I recommend is the Cronus because you don't need recoil control and the flinch resistance is pretty helpful and there's not that many cons. And then for the stock, we are adding the mobile stock just to bring up the mobility a little bit more. If you want a lot of mobility, then I would add the stockless mod. I'm just not using it because I feel like most of you guys will not like the stockless mod. For me, I'll usually run the stockless mod. And then here's the tuning for the shark fin in case I didn't show you guys that. And then if you do want one more class setup for the LACHMANN sub, this one is very fun for rushing. And so for the muzzle, we're running the spiral flash hider, tune it just like this, and then we are running the operator foregrip, which just adds a lot of hip fire accuracy, and that's very nice when you are rushing. We are running the LACHMANN because this adds a lot of recoil control because the stockless brings down that recoil control by so much, which that is going to wrap it up for the MP5. This next one I want to go over is the KASTOV 74U, and the reason I want to go over it is that they just added a new attachment. As you guys can see, that barrel is super long, so they just added a new barrel, and this thing has so much more damage range and a lot of recoil control. If you're going for your long shots, this is a great build for that. I do have a variation of it. Basically, if you don't want to run a laser, I would go over to the muzzle and throw on the RF crown, tune that for the recoil stabilization and the gun kick control. And then for the barrel, this is the brand new one, the KSTV 17. This is going to increase that damage range. It's going to add hip fire accuracy and then that bullet velocity. So it's just going to make the weapon feel a lot more responsive, although it does hurt the mobility a lot. And so I don't really know if I really like to run this barrel. I'll be running it for a few days and I'll probably do like an updated setup. And then for the tuning, just increase the ADS speed by a little bit and the aim walking speed. For the rear grip, because the barrel is bringing down the mobility so much, you want to add the true tack to bring that back up. And then again, tune that for the ADS speed and the sprint to fire speed. And then lastly, for the stock, I am running the Ultra Zat stock, which this one is not going to really hurt the weapon that much. It's only going to add a little bit of pros just to kind of fine tune the weapon. And then for the tuning, increase the ADS speed and the aim walking speed. And so now this is going to be a very good rushing weapon, but it's also very good at long range. And so with all that said, I think that is going to wrap it up for the AK-74U for this last build. So the BRYSON just got a massive buff. They really increased the damage range, which I don't know why they increased the damage range. And there's blood in here. Has there always been blood in the firing range? That's kind of brutal. I didn't know this. I had no idea that the targets can bleed. That's kind of crazy. But so anyways, I don't know why they buffed this weapon. It was already so good. And so if you have some very annoying enemies and you just want to piss them off, this is the class that you want to use. We are running the BRYSON improved choke to increase the damage range and tighten up that pellet spread. The tighter the pellets, the more pellets are going to hit the enemy, leading to more one-shot kills, which this is going to bring down the ADS. But that's why we're running the sawed-off mod, which is going to really increase that mobility. You get that movement speed, sprint to fire speed, ADS speed, and the hip recoil control, which that part doesn't really matter. And then we are running the tactical pump, so then we can rechamber the shots a little bit quicker. So if you do need to pop off that second shot, this is going to allow you to rechamber that next shot a lot quicker. We are running the VLK because the mobility isn't the best on the gun. And then you want to increase the sprint to fire speed and the ADS speed. So now the weapon should feel a lot lighter. For the tuning on the Demo X50 tactical, increase sprint to fire and the crouch movement speed. Cannot tune the sawed-off mod. For the tuning on the muzzle, increase sprint to fire. That is a very crucial thing. At first, I was going to tighten up the pellet spread, but I found that you don't really need it. It's already pretty tight. And then yes, we are losing ADS speed, but the damage range is very important for this weapon, which I think that is actually going to wrap it up for this video.